Okay, so you can see in this illustration what it might look like. So we have the old mariner, and you can see the bird tied around his neck, and then all those slimy creatures, the sea snakes or fish or whatever, flopping around in the water. So he blesses the sea snakes, and then his guilt, his burden is released. So the bird drops down into the ocean. Part five is when the natural world or the spiritual world starts to help him. So they see that he has made, changed. His views of nature have grown and developed. He now appreciates nature and the beauty of the natural world, as evidenced when he blesses those sea snakes. And then in part five, he's kind of rewarded for that change. So that starts helping him out rather than punishing him. So he's still very parched, thirsty, and it could be, part of this could all just be the the sort of dreamy state of his dehydration. But he dreams as if he had buckets and buckets of water, and then when he wakes up, he finds that it has rained. So it's almost as if the natural world is now helping him by giving him water. So he drinks, and it is a blessing of the natural world, which is now on his side. It also blesses him by giving him some wind, so his ship can start to move again. He's no longer stuck in this limbo, lost at sea. The ship is moving in the right direction. And even more than that, the spiritual world is going to help him move ahead by embodying or inhabiting the bodies of the sailors who have died. So it's this almost like this crew of dead men come to life as each sailor is inhabited by a spirit. So they become almost like a ghost crew. And it sounds to me as if, like, I'm sure you guys have seen Pirates of the Caribbean and the skeleton crew on the pirate ship. So this poem is really you can see the influences that this poem has had on kind of sea narratives and lost at sea kind of stories. So Pirates of the Caribbean does owe a lot of its inspiration to this poem as well. So the dead men all are inhabited by these spirits. So they groaned, they stirred, they all uprose, nor spake, nor moved their eyes. It had been a strange, even in a dream, to have seen those dead men rise. The helmsman steered, the ship moved on, yet never a breeze up blew. The mariners all gained work the ropes where they were wont to do. They raised their limbs like lifeless tools. We were a ghastly crew. So all of the sailors are back in their positions, helping the ship move forward, but they're dead, right? They're just lifeless tools. So they haven't come back to life. They're just inhabited by spirits. He says, 'Twas not those souls that fled in pain, which to their corpses came again, but a troop of spirits blessed. So it wasn't the men didn't come back to life. It was spirits that inhabited these bodies and helped them, or helped the ship move forward. Because at the end, they all dropped down, and then all these spirits went up, darted towards the sky. So he sees all these spirits leaving the body. And at the same time, he hears a skylark sing. So this is another sign of nature and the beauty of nature that he appreciates. I heard the skylark sing, sometimes all little birds that are, how they seem to fill the air, the sea and air with their sweet jargoning. So he hears the skylark singing, and it's something beautiful to him. and he appreciates it now. And now 'twas like all instruments, now like a lonely flute, and now it is an angel's song that makes the heaven be mute. So he even goes to compare the bird singing to an angel's song. So he sees the beauty and even this kind of spiritual presence in all of nature. And then the breeze, there's no breeze, but it's the spirits. It's as if the spirits are now helping his ship move forward and helping his ship go in the right direction. And then he has this kind of almost like an outer body experience where he has a vision of two spirits talking. So then, like a pawing horse let go, she made a sudden bound. It flung the blood into my head, and I fell down in a swound. So the ship is compared to a pawing horse moving forward, and it flings his blood to his head, and he falls down. And in this fit, so he's kind of passed out, and he sees two voices, spirits in the air, and they're having a conversation about him. So these two spirits are having this conversation. Is it he, quoth one? Is this the man by him who died on the cross? With his cruel bow he laid full low the harmless albatross. The spirit who biddeth by himself in the land of mist and snow, he loved the bird that loved the man who shot him with his bow. So these two spirits are sort of talking about the mariner and what he's done. So he killed the innocent bird, and now they're seeing that he is being punished, and there's still more penance to do. So he still has more to do to redeem himself, as these two spirits discuss. So in this illustration, we see the two spirits discussing the mariner and the punishments that he's faced so far, and then what's going to happen to him in the rest of his journey. So it seems as if the spirits are taking sort of pity on him at this point, and then they're helping him along. They see that he's changed or grown, that he now appreciates nature, and they're helping him by making the weather more calm and giving him a breeze to move his ship along. But there's still the guilt that he feels for having caused the deaths of his sea crew. So that has never passed away. Their curse is still on him. And as the poem goes on, he eventually does come to dry land, or at least he sees in the distance that there is a lighthouse. So the ship is no longer lost. He can see land in front of him, and he's been helped along by the spiritual world that has aided him in this journey. So he finally does see civilization ahead. He says, "Oh, dream of joy, is this indeed the lighthouse top I see? Is this the hill? Is this the kirk? Is this mine own country?" And then, so he does see the harbor bay and all of the cityscape in front of him. And then in the distance, on his ship, so all the corpses are of the dead men, his seamen, are also standing there beside them are seraphs. So seraphs are a special type of angel. I guess you have different types of angels. You have cherubs, which are like the cute, chubby little children angels. Seraphs are almost look like shepherds, or they're kind of powerful, angelic figures in the afterworld. Um, so the seraphs are there, each waving his hand in a heavenly sight, and they're kind of guiding him to his salvation. So their presence is a good sign. And then in the distance, he also hears the dash of oars. So there's a boat approaching him. So there's a pilot of the boat, and then the pilot's boy, so a man and his son, and they're coming upon his ship fast. So this is a blessing. So they're coming to rescue him. And then there's also a third man aboard this boat, and it's a hermit. So a hermit is somebody who lives in, a secluded area on their own. Usually it's in kind of a forest area or somewhere very isolated from the rest of civilization. Often hermits are viewed as wise people who have a kind of strong sense of spirituality. So this hermit is also aboard this ship that's coming to rescue the mariner. So he's rejoicing in the fact that he is going to be saved. And the last line of that section, he'll shrieve my soul, he'll wash away the albatross's blood. So there's still this idea that this is going to be a rebirth, a blessing, and he's going to be able to wash away his sins. So the blood of the albatross that's on his hands, so the guilt or sin that he has is going to be washed away as he is kind of reborn and saved. So his salvation is near. And then part 7 is when he is when the other boat reaches him, and then he is in fact saved. So part 3 we have, or part 7, the hermit along with the pilot and his son are approaching the ancient mariner whose ship he's sort of stuck at. And the hermit is the one sort of leading this salvation. So he's the one instructing the pilot and the boy to go forward and to help the mariner. So the hermit is, the connotations of being a hermit is more than just somebody who's secluded in the forest, which we usually think of. There's also a kind of religious context to being a hermit. So traditionally, a hermit would be sort of a wise person who almost was in a kind of religious or spiritual, they're seeking wisdom through isolation. So they're somebody who has studied religion or who's very wise and have devoted their lives to that. So the hermit is almost like a teacher or somebody who will share their wisdom and has reached a kind of higher level of spiritual wisdom than the regular person. So the hermit and the pilot and the son all come across this boat with the mariner, and they're afraid of what they'll find, and what just the appearance of the mariner looks as if he's almost, terrifying to look at, right? They refer to him as a devil. And as they get closer and closer, the pilot doesn't want to go on. He's afraid, but it's the hermit that says, "Push on, push on." So the hermit he's motivating them to keep going and to get closer to the ship. And then when they get close, they hit the boat, and it splits in half, and then the mariner's ship sinks. So under the water it rumbled on, still louder and more dread. It reached the ship, it split the bay, the ship went down like lead. So the ship sinks, and the mariner is floating in the sea. So my body lay afloat, but swift as dreams, myself I found within the pilot's boat. So they pick him up and put him in their boat. So they're saving him. So this is part of his salvation. I moved my lips, the pilot shrieked and fell down in a fit. The holy hermit raised his eyes and prayed where he did sit. So the mariner opens his lips, the pilot freaks out, and the hermit, who's described as a holy man, prays for him. I took the oars. So they thought he was maybe dead, but he's still got some life in him yet. And then they say, "Ha ha, quoth he, full plain I see the devil knows how to row." So they refer to him as the devil, the mariner as the devil, who still knows how to row. So he's not dead. He might look dead, but he's not dead. And then he says, so they finally land. He's on firm land in his own country again, and they all get off the boat. And then the mariner says, "Oh, shrieve me, holy man." So he's saying, "Save me, save me." And the hermit blesses him. So the hermit crossed his brow, so gives him a blessing on his forehead, and then asks him, "I bid thee say, what manner of man art thou?" So we do know that the mariner he is, stuck in this life and death, right? So there is this almost unhuman quality to him. Um, and then almost like he's unable to control this urge. He says, "Forthwith this frame of mine was wrenched with a woeful agony, which forced me to begin my tale, and then it left me free." So at that moment that the hermit blesses him, he is released from his agony when he tells his tale. So he tells the hermit what happened to him, and this is somehow a release from that burden that he felt. So there's this element of release and salvation when he shares his story with others. So this is where the mariner's story sort of culminates or ends, where he is finally back in his own country on firm land, able to now live his life, except for the fact that he's now a changed person. He has to share his story with others. So this is this sort of ongoing, I guess you could say, punishment that he has to live with for the rest of his life, is that at certain times, at a certain hour, that agony returns and he has to tell his tale. Until my ghastly tale is told, this heart within me burns. So he feels this urge within himself at some times to tell his tale. And then he passes from land to land, and he has this almost magnetic power of speech. So he will stop if he sees somebody while he goes throughout his travels who he feels needs to hear this story. He stops that person and then tells him the tale. So that's what he's been doing with this wedding guest who he stopped on the street and said, "Well, you have to hear my story." So he's going to teach others by telling his story.